It's my first time camping, but things don't seem right out here. By Reddit to Sir Tough Love a Little Dove. I'm going to let you know what happened to me the last 24 hours, but first I just want to clear up something that folks seem a little confused about. I'm not in the Pine Barrens. Ryder is from the Pines, but he took me to the Catskills in New York to camp. I'm not sure if that changes anything. Are skinwalkers and their ilk only in the Pine Barrens? Or can they be in any woods? Regardless, I took your advice yesterday and decided to leave on foot to get help. I grabbed my backpack, threw water and food in it, and set out down the very long driveway. Unfortunately, I didn't make it very far before Ryder found me. He emerged from the thicket of trees on the left side of the trail about 15 minutes into my journey, dragging the axe in the dirt behind him. When I saw the look on his face, a cold, sinister expression, I took more of your advice and decided to pretend like nothing was wrong despite the fact that my heart was thumping wildly in my chest. For my sake, I hope he is still human, or he could have surely heard it. There you are. Oh my God, Ryder, I've been looking everywhere for you. I was so worried. Let's go back to the cabin. Without waiting for him to reply, I turned and started walking back the way I came. At first I wasn't sure if he was going to follow, but then I began to hear large, heavy footsteps behind me. They sounded so loud that when I turned around I almost expected to find a horse, but it was just Ryder, dragging the axe in his feet before each heavy step. He didn't say a word. When we arrived back at the cabin, I immediately went inside and put my things down. My heart was still racing, my whole body tingling with fear. I went to one of the windows and nearly jumped back in shock when I saw Ryder standing in front of the porch railing, staring stony-faced into the cabin. I forced myself to calm down and stepped outside. I leaned against the cabin wall, right against those horrifically large scratches, crossed my arms, and turned my attention to Ryder. Hey, so I could use a couple things from the general store. What do you say we head into town for a nice dinner and I can also pick up what I need? Ryder stared at me, and then slowly, so slow it almost seemed like slow motion, he blinked once. I don't know what it was about this, but it fucking creeped me out. It was almost like he wasn't registering anything I said. Just when I thought he was going to ignore me, he spoke one, croaky, hoarse-sounding word. No. Oh, I continued trying to play it cool. Okay, well, no problem. Can I just have the keys then? I'm going to run into town real quick and grab what I need, then I'll come right back and we can have dinner by the fire again. This time he didn't hesitate. No. For a moment, despite his behavior and the sound of his voice, I allowed myself to forget that this may not be my Ryder. I became exasperated. How dare he tell me I can't go anywhere? Come on, Ryder. What is the deal? Just let me take your truck for a bit. No. He bellowed at me, and the sound echoed, but it wasn't like any echo I had ever heard. It repeated, over and over, maybe 3, 4 times. It sounded like he was shouting it over and over, but he stood there, his mouth closed, gnashing his teeth, staring me down. I turned and ran inside. The next few hours, as the sun set, I watched as Ryder continued chopping wood. Stump after stump was cut down wordlessly, emotionlessly. By now there's a giant stack of wood by the fire, far more than I can ever imagine we'd need, but he just keeps at it. I tried to send a few texts to friends, though none of them own cars and could drive to get me, but because I was inside and not on the porch, none of them went through. I didn't dare go outside. I wanted him to forget I was even in there. As the sun set, it cast a red glow into the cabin, and I was beginning to feel more and more panicked at the prospect of nightfall. I already had planned to leave again the next morning, I just needed to make it through the night. Night did come, and Ryder stayed outside, now sitting by the fire. Watching him through the window, with the soft light of the flames illuminating his face, I felt a pull on my heart. That is the face of the man I love. That isn't a monster, it's Ryder, my Ryder. I'll admit I began to cry a bit, whether from all the stress or the fear, but I quickly backed away from the window when he snapped his head to the left and looked right at me. The next few hours were quiet, but then around 1 a.m. he stumbled into the cabin. He almost seemed drunk, but I knew he hadn't been drinking. I was lying in bed and immediately pretended to be asleep. I heard him shut the door and amble over to me with those same heavy steps. The bed squeaked under his weight as he settled in next to me. Now I laid as still as I could, barely daring to breathe, while behind me, I could hear his own breathing, laborious and heavy, as if his lips were mere inches from my ear. Then he spoke in that strange, husky voice, and the words sent shivers down my spine. "Love you, Gumdrop." It wasn't his voice, not the one I know, but it was his special nickname for me. It took everything within me not to burst into tears. Instead, I took a breath in and held it, keeping my eyes shut as tightly as I could. Moments later, I sensed he had fallen asleep as his breathing turned even and steady. I still didn't dare to move. I didn't sleep all night. I was too petrified. I laid awake, afraid to touch my phone or move an inch, lest I wake him. It was the longest 8 hours of my life. Instead, all I did was make mental notes of what happened next, while staring at the red glowing numbers of the digital clock on the nightstand. 2 a.m. I heard a creaking on the porch, like someone was walking out there, but no footsteps. 2:26 a.m. there was a loud, sharp yap in the distance. Just a single sound, like a small dog or fox or something. 3:15 a.m. the scratching, raking noises again, only this time it sounded like it was behind the cabin, on the wall right behind our bed. I actually cried out a bit when this started, but luckily it didn't wake Ryder. Neither did the scratching sounds, despite how loud they seemed to me. This continued for about 25 minutes. I think I almost had a panic attack at this point. It was really hard to even breathe. 4:05 a.m. the scratching noisies have stopped, but now the roof of the cabin begins to creak, as if someone were walking across it back and forth. When it finally stops, it stops right above my head. 4:17 a.m. I hear that voice again. It sounds just like Ryder's normal voice, only this time I don't think the repetitive phrase he is saying includes the word stop. Now I think it sounds like rot. From then until 8 a.m., things were quiet. I almost drifted off to sleep even at one point, but as I did I was jolted awake by my own sense of panic. Finally, at 8, Ryder woke, stood up immediately, and slammed the screen door as he headed outside. I watched him leave, and realized he still had on the same clothes as yesterday. He had slept in them, which also means the truck key is still in his pocket. I'm sitting at the kitchen table now, writing this update while I listen to him chop wood outside. He's been doing it for hours. I have my backpack ready to go again. The moment he leaves to collect more wood, I'm booking it down the driveway. I think it's about a mile to the main road. I'm not a runner, and have never been super athletic, but I'm hoping my adrenaline and determination can get me there fast enough. Once there I'm going to walk until I can hopefully flag down a driver to take me into town, and then I can call family and friends. I'm actually pretty afraid to hitchhike, but, at this point, I kind of feel one danger outweighs the other. I also have to admit that there's a part of me that feels guilty leaving him here alone. But I've been reminding myself that if this man isn't my Ryder, then my Ryder might still be out there. And if so, he needs my help. Wish me luck, and please, if you have any more advice, or even theories about WTF is happening, I could really use it right now. I'm hoping once I'm out by the main road my phone will pick up a bit more signal. The last thing I'll do before I leave the porch and make my escape is post this. I just hope I can find someone before Ryder finds me again.